Good afternoon. I apologize for the delay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. May we have the reading of the notice, please?
The Board of Directors of the School District of the City of Erie, Pennsylvania, and the Board of Directors of the City of Erie Regional Career and Technical School will meet in regular session on Wednesday, April 15th, 2015, in the auditorium at East High School, 1001 Atkins Street, at 6 o'clock p.m., by request of the President, Robert S. Casillo.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spagel?
Here.
Mrs. Alexandrovich? Here. Mr. Brzezinski?
Here.
Mr. Fabrizi?
Here.
Mr. Harkins?
Here.
Mrs. McNair? Here. Mr. Petrunger?
Here.
Mrs. Shenley? Here. Mr. Casillo?
Here. I apologize for the feedback. I think we have some technical difficulties here that are going to be worked out shortly. That's shortly. Next, we will have a Pledge of Allegiance led by Xavier Spalding, a fourth grade student from Harding School, introduced by Ms. Kathleen Farnham, principal, followed by a moment of silence for Patricia Kerner, a retired teacher who passed away on March 22nd, 2015. Patricia Brugger, a past teacher who passed away on the 24th of March. Glenda Ruth Morrow, our retired teacher assistant, who passed away on the 26th of March, and Patty Sue Isaac, a retired custodian who passed away on the 25th of March. So if we could call our principal, Kathleen.
Good evening, Dr. Badams, Mrs. Sidali, Mr. Casillo, and members of the board. I would like to introduce Xavier Spalding, a fourth grade student at Harding Elementary School. Xavier is a student in Mrs. Kara Easley's class. Mrs. Easley nominated Xavier to represent Harding as pledge leader because he is an exceptional role model for his fellow classmates. Xavier has earned the Top Dragon Award this year for being respectful, responsible, safe, and focused. He is a consistent honor student who loves math, especially multiplication and division. Xavier also enjoys learning about wars and history and social studies. In addition, he is partial to gym class, and of course, everyone's favorite, lunch. Xavier is the son of proud parents, Stephen and Jessica Spalding, and brother to Alex and Max, both students at Harding, and Grace, future Harding student. Xavier plays football for the Erie Youth Tackle Football League, and if he can't get into the NFL someday, he'd settle for being a mechanical engineer at GE. The students and staff at Harding Elementary are proud to have Xavier Spalding represent their school as this month's pledge leader. Please stand as Xavier leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take good care of Miss Farnham for me, okay?
Next, I'd like to introduce Strong Business Student Representative to the board in April is Jacayla Sharice Williams. She's the daughter of Charmaine Lyons and Jerome Williams. During her 4 years at Strong Vincent High School, she had been a member of the Strong Vincent Honors Academy. She completed an AP course in English literature and was a member of the junior ROTC. Jacayla is involved with the Gold College program, College for Every Student, and Student Council. She carries a 3.3 GPA. For the past 3 years, Jacayla has worked part-time at a nursing home, helping out babysitting with her younger sister and helping her disabled grandmother. Jacayla will be attending Edinburgh to major in physical therapy. She plans to become a geriatric physical therapist. Welcome, Jacayla. Would you like to say something to the board and to the public?
Well, hello to everybody. Hi. It's an honor to be here.
That was very good, very brief. I'd like to present you with the Certificate of Appreciation, if I may. The Certificate of Appreciation presented to Jacayla Williams, Strong Vincent High School, for your service as student representative to the Board of Directors of Erie Public Schools for April 2015. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay. I'm to announce the meetings in executive session. We had executive session, let me just get the exact times for you here. On April the 8th, in Conference Room 1, from 7:49 p.m. to 7:55 p.m. regarding personnel. The board also met on April 13th in Conference Room 1 from 1:01 to 1:33 p.m. regarding personnel. Tonight, we also met on April 15th in the library at East High School regarding personnel issues from 7:30 to 7:45. At this point, we'd like to have the hearing of citizens. We have one 5-minute speaker who had sent in his letter requesting 5 minutes to address the school board. Mr. William McDonald of Erie to speak to the school board regarding school district business. Mr. McDonald, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a few months.
Good to be here.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is McDonald. My property's 19th and Reed. I have a few issues. Of course, you know that when you see me coming. You know, what I can't understand is this. We have more kids falling out of school, but our taxes they keep going up. I don't understand that. But we got all these foreigners coming in. We got to carry everybody on our back. That load is getting awful heavy. You know, you got some peoples out there, they want a fixed income. They take a lot of our money, our Social Security, for the national budget. And these Republicans coming in now, they're talking about they want to take some of that money. They're already getting a big piece of it. It don't make sense to me. We got a slave master out there that's, I don't know, is putting more and more weight on our back. When you think about slaves, you better go beyond the black man as being a slave, because we're all slaves now. You all too. We got that big monster down there in Washington. We got this one. in Harrisburg, and we got one down here at City Hall. Their taxes are steady climbing. Where do you expect us to get that money from? We're already living in poverty, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. We got all of that crime going on now, these young folks killing up each other. It doesn't make sense to me. Back in my day, we didn't do things like that. We'd go out there, if we had a disagreement, we'd go out there and duke it out, and that was it. Now, these young folks coming along now, they're not satisfied until they kill up each other. They're going to kill up some of y'all too, eventually. It'll get to you. And they ain't threatening you either. I can see further than my nose. Things are getting worse. They're not getting better. You take big business and these nonprofit organizations, they're in bed together. They're bringing these peoples in. Then they're going to put them on our Social Security or whatever you want to call it. SSI, you're still taking our money. You know, I'm just in the dark on this. Big business want to hold wages down. This country is going to hell in a handbasket. Our kids won't have no future. This will be a battleground. Look at those two guys in Boston up there. You're going to have that all across the country. You watch and see what I'm telling you. They don't like us, but you're bringing them in by the boatloads. It just don't make sense. Why should we haul our troubles in? We got enough here to take care of. We got enough problems here to try to solve. Well, people don't kill a kitty about us. They come and they get what they can. They done told you they ISIS done told you they coming to kill you. So why you keep bringing them over here? Now we got homegrown. We got some problems. We got to look further than here. You got to get a different mindset if you're going to try to even think about trying to solve them. I don't claim to know where to start, but you all supposed to be the educators. And some of you up there dumber than me, and I didn't even graduate. You better look a little further than your nose. I'm not trying to run your business for you. You think you know everything, but you don't. And when you start coming to the realization that you don't know everything, then maybe you can do something then. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. It's good to see you again. Next is anyone else that wishes to address the board. You have 3 minutes. When you come to the podium, please state your name and sign your name and print your name and address, I should say, on the tablet provided at the podium. Is there anyone that would like to step forward and address the board? Not seeing or hearing anyone. We'll move to the reports of committee and liaisons. Anyone on the board wish to report? Special committees, liaisons? Okay. I would like to report that Dr. Badams and I attended what I hope to be the first annual legislative brunch, and Dr. Badams would be able to expound on that if he wishes later. But the purpose of it was to inform the legislature of the condition of public schools in general, specifically the city of Erie. and the need for state funding, additional state funding, well above the current level. And the session lasted about an hour and a half or so, maybe a little longer. And I have to say that it was a very productive meeting. The representatives that were there or their designees were very, I would have to say, intrigued. They weren't aware of some of the problems that public schools face, that are currently facing. And we did get a very positive response, and we're hoping that when these legislators return to Harrisburg, they're going to keep all public schools, and specifically Erie School District, in mind when they look at the governor's budget proposal and act in our favor. Okay, that's all I have to report to our board. There is no unfinished. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, I would like to have an approval of the report of the committee. I have a motion.
So be it.
Motion by Mr. Petrunger, seconded by Mr. Spiegel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have no unfinished business, as I said. In items 5 relating to new business, and I believe it goes to 6 for
Chairman?
the career and tech. Yes, sir.
I move that we approve agenda items 5, 6, and 7, that being the new business of the school district, its supplemental, and the vocational career and the technical
A
new
motion.
business.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Harkins, seconded by
Mr. Brzezinski.
Mr. Brzezinski. All righty.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
included in that supplemental school district new business is the retirement incentive that we developed in the last series of meetings, the last 2 weeks. I'd like to have the superintendent maybe highlight why and what it involves.
Thank you. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we need a voice vote, don't we, first?
No, we do.
This is discussion on the motion. Okay, thank you.
As Mr. Harkins just mentioned, within our supplemental new business tonight is, actually, there's a pair of retirement incentives that the board will be considering momentarily. And when we passed our preliminary budget, in order to close a $7.4 million gap, one of the remedies that we saw was less painful than cutting programs, reducing staff, and that was, in fact, to provide a retirement incentive to hopefully realize some savings. Now, whenever we do a retirement incentive, it's a double-edged sword. We do achieve a cost reduction because obviously the people who choose to retire are being paid a higher salary because of the duration of their careers with the district than those employees that are hired to replace them. So that differential is what we end up realizing as a savings to help close that budget gap. But what happens when we provide that incentive is that we lose a lot of experience. We lose a lot of institutional knowledge. And that's always, so it's always a trade-off. But unfortunately, we've been in the position, because of the way that our public schools have been funded over the course of the past several years, that we have no choice but to cut our way to a balanced budget. So this ends up being one of the least painful ways to do that. And our hope is that a significant enough number of people take advantage of the retirement incentives that we're considering offering, that we realize a substantial savings. So if everybody took it who would be eligible for the savings, for the incentives that are being offered potentially this evening, we could save as much as $2 million a year. And so, again, as much as we hate to see many of our experienced and outstanding educators and support personnel leave, we're in a situation where we need to do that. So this particular incentive, the details are available as an appendix to the board docs. For our employees from our Teachers Association, our Administrative Association, and our non-bargaining staff, the incentive is a $25,000 incentive split over a 7-year period. And for our employees who are in our non-instructional support unions, that incentive is a $15,000 incentive dispersed over a 4-year period. In both cases, the first year, there is no disbursement. That ends up allowing us to realize a greater savings in the first year, and the cost of the incentive is spread over the subsequent years. But again, as I said, the net impact of an incentive would be a savings for the district of over $2 million a year. So again, with it's mixed feelings that accompany this resolution, but I do believe that it's in the best interest of the district to try to reduce expenses through this method.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve items 5, 6, and 7 on the agenda. Could we have a roll call, please?
For the record, Mr. Spiegel had to leave the meeting,
Yes,
6:19.
thank you.
Mrs. Alexandrovich? Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fabrizi?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McNair? Mr. Petrunger?
Yes.
Ms. Shenley? Mr. Cassillo?
Yes. Thank you. I'd like to have the approval of the minutes, the meeting minutes of March 18th as attached electronically to the agenda. We have a motion?
So be it.
A motion by Mr. Petrunger, seconded by Mrs. Shenley. Ms. Shenley? Okay. I beg your pardon, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 9, the bills and payroll.
I move we approve them for payment.
Second.
Who made the motion, please? John, thank you. Mr. Harkins made the motion. Mr. Brzezinski seconded it. Voice vote, please,
Mrs. Alexandrovich?
or roll call, beg your pardon.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fabrizi?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McNair? Mr. Petrunger?
Yes.
Ms. Shenley? Mr. Cassillo?
Yes. The report of the superintendent, Dr. Adams?
Okay, roll PowerPoint, please. I promise to try to do a better job of chewing gum and walking at the same time. The last time I tried to do a PowerPoint, I had a hard time keeping up with myself with the advancing of the slides, but we'll try do a better job this time. Before I get going on this presentation, which is really a follow-up to a request from the board, I just wanted to touch on the legislative breakfast that Mr. Cassillo alluded to. I agree with him. I think we had a productive session. I think it was interesting that many of the legislators really didn't know quite the depth of the challenges that our district and other urban districts are facing. And I would throw in with that mix our poorer rural districts. And so I think it was a good dialogue, and one of the recurring themes through it was that we really ought to talk with each other more often. So hopefully that will be the result of that. And the other thing that I think my big ask of those legislators was that whether a legislator is a Republican or a Democrat, my belief truly is that public education should be an area where we put aside pure partisanship and attempt to solve problems facing this system, which really was designed to guarantee democracy. The whole purpose of public education was to ensure that tyranny couldn't return. And I think it's no less important. There are many other reasons now, mostly economic and social, that argue for a healthy public education system. But if we don't do a good job of educating our youth, we seriously run the risk of things like voter apathy. And we need to avoid that at all costs. And for that very reason, I really believe that education should be the area where we have bipartisanship, if there is one, if we can find any common ground. So with that spirit, we had, I think, a healthy session, and we opened a dialogue, and I hope to continue it. And I would urge everybody to to ask for that same sort of stewardship from our legislators right now as it concerns the governor's budget proposal. The governor's come out with some, I think, very proactive and, again, bipartisan approaches to solving some of the problems that face public education, but he has put public education on the forefront of the agenda for a lot of the reasons I just cited. It's the right thing to do, it's important for the health of our democracy, and it's critical for Pennsylvania's competitiveness economically. It's the one issue where there is a strong pro-business education argument that any conservative Republican should like, and there's also a very strong argument to be made for greater social justice that any liberal Democrat could love. And so I hope we can move forward and see to it that we keep the promise of public education alive. And now to my main point here. I want to discuss, and this will be a little lengthier than most of my superintendent's reports, but this is actually a charge that I should have fulfilled a while ago. The concept of employee engagement or morale, as it comes to be discussed commonly, is one that was raised as an issue for the district, and this next slide, I guess, may represent the sort of approach to employee morale that some organizations have taken over the years, that people should just be happy they have a job. What we've learned over the years is that happy employees that feel engaged, employees that believe in the mission of the organizations in which they work, are much more productive, are much more fulfilled in their own personal lives, are healthier, and able to do better work. And so, again, it's one of those issues that's the right thing to do morally, but it's also the right thing to do from a pragmatic stance. So toward that end, I was instructed by Mr. Fabrizi at that time to develop processes to both, to do a couple of different things. First and foremost, to consult with our employees to get information on how we might tackle some of the big issues that are facing us as a district. So just like we approached the legislators, this idea was to look within, to seek the wisdom of experience that exists within our employees of all classes within this organization to make sure that we do a better job and fulfill the organization's mission, which is continuous improvement. So that was one of the tasks that we were charged with. And so toward that end, we have been seeking the counsel of our various employee groups over the course of the past couple of years. And again, like everything else that we do, we need to be continually trying to do that better. One of the ways that we've done this is through sessions that I've been holding on a quarterly basis where we have topics that are important to the district's functioning, and we invite every employee to attend. I will say that we haven't had the kind of turnout that I'd hoped for, but our most recent one was to think of ways that we might, again, continue to pare down our budget to be able to balance our budget without jeopardizing the quality of the education that we provide. Those sessions are open to all of our employees, and we intend to continue doing that. And I would invite the board, I typically come up with the topics, but I would be more than happy to encourage the board to offer their ideas about things they might like to know the feelings of our staff on. Another way we've been seeking employee feedback is by surveying our staff, which is something that really never happened in the past. The two partial documents you can see on the screen right now represent a couple of surveys that were done to solicit input from one group. One was a survey of all of our administrators to find out their perception of the job that central office is doing in supporting their work. And then we've conducted a couple of other surveys as well to try to get some measure of the degree to which our employees feel supported by their management. And I'll get into that in greater detail in a moment. Another way that employee engagement and morale are enhanced is by making sure that there's transparency, making sure that we communicate effectively, that everybody knows what's going on, that we're all rowing in the same direction. And I have to applaud the work of Mr. Cummings toward this end. He established a newsletter that through which he solicits the input of everybody in the organization. and then compiles it so that we have what's called news and notes. That's our internal newsletter that goes out to all of our employees and school directors, so that everyone within the organization knows all the good things that are happening on the other side of town, for example, and knows when some individual employee of the district does something wonderful, has something newsworthy to share. So I'm very happy. I turn to that document myself to find out what's going on throughout the organization, because obviously we can't be everywhere at all times. The other part of the charge that we received, that this board approved, was to research, develop, and implement initiatives that focus on team building and boosting morale through the instructional and non-instructional workforce. So I would say, if I had to give us a kind of a status update on where we are with that right now, I'd say we've done a lot of work on the research side. We've begun to do some work on the development side, and we've begun to do a little work on the implementation side. But that work needs to continue. And like everything else we do, we won't be at 100%, but growth toward that is our goal, and measurable, sustainable growth. In terms of research, the most comprehensive work that's been done in the area of employee engagement is the Gallup organization's State of the American Workplace report. And the way that the Gallup organization rates employee engagement is through a survey that they run, and we'll go into what the various topics or questions in that survey are in a minute, but they categorize workers as either engaged, not engaged, or actively disengaged. And I don't, whether you work within the Erie's public schools, or you're watching on TV and you work for some other organization or have worked for some other organization, I'm sure you can identify with the definitions for these three different types of employees. Those who are engaged are those who are all about the organization. They work with passion. They feel connected to the organization, and they share the goals and values of the organization. Those who are not engaged are the employees who are just sort of putting in time. And they get through the day doing whatever the bare minimum is that they need in order to keep their jobs. And then those who are actively disengaged, I'm sure you've met before as well. Those are the people who actually try to undermine the efforts of those engaged employees and are rarely without some negative thing to say about the place they work. Now, this survey and this whole report that Gallup did was not, it reads a lot like something from strictly the private sector business, but they surveyed every type of business, including schools and school systems and government organizations. So it's a very representative survey, and what they found is a little bit distressing in that 70% of the workers that they surveyed, and there were millions of people surveyed, report being either not engaged or actively disengaged. That's a bad number when you think about it. But it's also an optimistic number in that means there are 70% of our employees who, if we spend some effort trying to engage, will lead to better outcomes, in our case for our students and for our taxpayers. In terms of how that breaks down, a lot of this comes down to leadership. A lot of it comes down to frontline supervision. It's your immediate boss who very often dictates how or whether you'll be engaged in the work that you do. And this little graphic right here shows that in organizations where employees feel that their supervisor are focused on their strengths, there's great engagement. There's less engagement, but still a reasonable amount of engagement in those organizations where the supervisor focuses on the employee's negative characteristics or weaknesses. But then the worst of all is where the employee is ignored. I thought that was pretty interesting. So positive feedback or focusing on an employee's strengths is the greatest pathway to employee engagement. So what is the impact on the organization? Should we focus on this simply because it's a nice thing to do, or is there some tangible return on a focus on improving employee morale and employee engagement? Well, the numbers that were generated from this massive study show a number of positive effects of focusing on improving employee engagement. And they ranged, you can see them on the screen there, 37% less absenteeism and employee turnover, 48% fewer safety incidents, 41% fewer product defects. Now, obviously, we don't create products, but we do provide a service. And I would, I would apply that 41% there. 21% higher productivity and 22% higher profitability. Now, obviously, we're not here to make a profit. But again, if you think about that in terms of student achievement instead of profit, those are very significant numbers. The research points to 3 primary ways for organizations like ours to impact employee engagement. The first one is kind of obvious: select the right people. So what are we doing toward that end? We have completely restructured our hiring process, really for both our instructional and our non-instructional staff and our administration. We're now doing a very consistent screening process, so a series of screening interviews, and now we're using performance interviews at every level of the organization to get a better picture of an employee, other than simply a resume or the performance on a single interview. We've also included a very broad perspective of folks on those interview teams, so we have both internal and external individuals that are part of that process. And that's not only given us greater transparency into how the district conducts its hiring, but it's also allowed us to bring in some outside expertise, especially when we have a specific or technical position that we're trying to fill. We've involved students. In our instructional interviews, we've actually had students come in and had teacher candidates teach sample lessons to them. And the feedback out of the mouths of babes is absolutely extraordinary and extremely valuable. We've now completed our HR, or actually, I shouldn't say we've completed it, but we've made great progress in establishing our human resources portal within our enterprise system that we use on our computer network. So now our employees can access their information on there. We do things like enrollment for professional development opportunities through that site, and so that's been a great resource. We recently have experimented with open interviews, which means we anticipate that we're going to have potentially a number of openings because we've got a retirement incentive that has now passed. So we've already screened through this open interview process over 500 applicants. We literally had people lined up around the block for both our instructional and non-instructional open interviews that we conducted. So we have a great pool of candidates from which to take the next step of doing the performance interviews. Excuse me. Sorry, this isn't advancing unless I hold this up. We've also collaborated with Mill Creek School District in using this work from Gallup to, and we've included all of our managers and supervisors, not simply our instructional ones, in this work to help focus on employee engagement. So there's a follow-up meeting. We had one to kick off this school year, and now we're in the planning stages with Mill Creek Township School District to offer another joint session where all of our managers, both instructional and non-instructional, will meet again to follow up on this work. And Life Solutions, who is our employee assistance provider, has been very helpful in this work that we've been doing together. The second thing of the 3 that is important is to develop employees' strengths. And it's interesting. I remember when I worked in the private sector for Eastman Kodak Company, one of the books they made us read was a book called The 1 Minute Manager. And the whole premise, one of the key premises of that book was to catch people doing something right. I mean, think of it as positive reinforcement, but the research is pretty clear that Gallup has amassed that by focusing on employees' strengths rather than on their weaknesses, it's a much healthier way to try to encourage productivity and commitment to the organization. And so that's something that we're also trying to do a better job of. So how do we do that? Well, it's through training. And so there are a number of examples I could give you of ways that we're trying to better provide professional development. So I'll give you a couple. For our non-instructional supervisors, we've begun to work through the Manufacturers Association to provide them with some training that are offered through that facility. Now, again, task for me and for my senior leadership team is to hold people accountable for actually using that training. So that's something I'd say is more of a work in progress. But there are some examples here of follow-ups that HR has been doing in providing Life Solutions supervisory support newsletters to all the people that have those, that work in those supervisory capacities. And these range on a wide variety of topics, everything from helping employees with their emotional well-being to their actual physical wellness. There's a number of strategies that are shared on a monthly basis. But again, that's a first step. What is done with that information is a matter for future accountability. Again, starting at the top and working throughout the ranks. Another thing that we've been doing that we hope is helpful is that, again, in keeping with this spirit of trying to catch people doing something right, is just providing recognition. There are people who have worked in various capacities within this district who've probably never been told that they've done a good job. And one of the tenets of good management is just that. If somebody does something worthy of recognition, they should be praised. And so, again, making that part of the culture is part of the next steps as we move forward. And what we've done recently is we've developed our own thank you cards so that people that are in various supervisory capacities can pass on a heartfelt, handwritten thank you for a job well done. Again, the question is how many of these cards are finding their way to the employees that are doing the wonderful things in this district. In terms of news and media relations, through the communications department, again, Mr. Cummings pitches, I'm not sure how many positive stories. I could probably quiz Erica Irwin on that, but I think it's in the hundreds on an annual basis. Just sharing the good news. And a couple of the snippets you can see on the screen. Most recently, Mark Longstreet saved a man's life at Urbaniak's Delicatessen, and Matt pitched that story and made that known internally, that he actually performed the Heimlich maneuver and saved a man who was choking. So again, pointing out these situations, these very human and important things that are done that really are worthy of recognition. Again, an important part of us changing the culture. Some others that in this whole idea of news and media relations, we had our teacher, Ms. DePlacido at Jefferson, was named, recognized as my favorite teacher by Barnes & Noble. She'll be receiving special recognition. And then again, each year now, what we're also doing is recognizing our employees who either publish or present at conferences or in some way do great things over the summer or during the course of the year. We solicit this information and again publish it because we have people every day doing really wonderful work out there. So the other thing we offer to our employees through the News and Notes program is talking points. And again, this goes to not just individual employee morale, but one of the big components of employee engagement is how well connected our employees feel to the mission of the district. And so talking points are ways exemplified here, like how do we talk to people outside the school district about things like the fair education funding formula work that's going on. When I'm asked questions by my family members about what's going on with taxes or why does the district have a shortfall this year, actually knowing the answers to those questions is really our responsibility. We need to inform the board, we need to inform our staff so that when they are challenged or ask difficult questions, they have the right answers. So that's another part of this that we're working on and I think doing a much better job of. And then along the same lines, the whole notion of brand, I mean, it seems kind of strange, I'm sure, that as a public school district that we need to think about our brand, but how do people perceive Erie's public schools? Are we an organization truly committed to providing the best possible education to the students we serve? Or are we a big faceless, nameless bureaucracy? Some of the good work that's been going on through the course of the last couple of years, the work that we've had with our Better Together program, are examples of ways that the district is attempting to show the community that they own their public schools. That was the whole purpose, probably one of the biggest things we did in rebranding was putting that apostrophe S after the word Erie. Erie's public schools, they belong to all of us. Again, the more we can make sure that people understand that brand and understand the meaning behind the symbolism, is, we'll go a much longer way for people to feel proud, not just our employees, but even our families and hopefully our taxpayers will feel proud or prouder of the school district. And then again, the last 2 years, the work that's been done by PEPS in this We Love Erie's Public Schools Week, you can see it in the windows of our school buildings. You can see it in the many activities that we hold during that week. And again, a way for us to build internal pride within our employees, but also within our other constituencies outside the school district. And the last part, and the part that we probably have the longest way to go on, is enhancing employee well-being. Now, there are a lot of reasons, again, morally proper reasons and pragmatic reasons for focusing on our employees' well-being. Now, well-being is a pretty general term. We're talking about physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Healthy employees serve their organizations better. We, as a board, passed a strategic plan that has as one of its 3 primary goals a focus on continuous improvement of culture and climate. Well, there are byproducts of that focus on culture and climate. Our other 2 goals, continuous improvement of teaching and learning and continuous improvement of organizational effectiveness, are inextricably linked with that improvement of culture and climate. So again, the more we see that link and the more we understand how inevitably true that is, the more we'll make progress on this. So again, focusing on employee engagement is a key toward that. We are in the process, and I see Ms. Wiley in the audience. We now have a grant that's focused on enhancing our student wellness. But we also have the ability to start focusing more on employee health and wellness. And there are obvious reasons for that, other than that it's simply the right thing to do. We also have historically had discount programs with the YMCA. We've had membership giveaways to Nautilus in recent years. And obviously the district covers an annual health physical. But beyond that, we're in the planning stages of looking at body, mind, and wellness as an overall employee initiative. We've been approached by healthcare providers locally to provide this sort of service, everything from diagnostic testing to taking a look at finding ways to differentiate our insurance costs based on participation in a wellness program. Again, a work in progress. So just to kind of go through what the basis of the survey data is and to show how this frames the work as I see it moving forward, there are 12 questions that the Gallup organization includes in this survey, and each one I'm sure will resonate with people differently. But the first one is that I know what's expected of me at work, and this is something that we often take for granted, but being clear about what an employee's tasks are, what their job is, and what the standards for completion of a given task are critical to make sure everyone knows clearly what their role is in the organization. Second question is, I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. Well, think about teachers who over the course of the last several years have struggled with instructional resources. You know, we've made a lot of cutbacks. We've done a lot of trying to do more with less in terms of the resources that our teachers have available to them. But it's pretty tough to teach at high levels when the resources that you have are inadequate. Employees who have adequate resources are certainly more enthusiastic about their jobs and feel that they have more effectiveness. Third question is that at work I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. And the answer to that question can reveal if employees feel like they're in the position where their talents are best used. The fourth one is, in the last 7 days I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. So interestingly, Gallup finds that in organizations that are highly effective, their managers praise their subordinates once a week. Now, there's a fine line between empty, sort of superficial praise and actually, again, catching someone doing something right and reinforcing that good performance. The fifth question is, my supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. Well, everybody needs this. We can go back to the hierarchy of needs. But positive relationships make good teamwork. They make a group have a solid relationship and provide a feeling of safety. They enable people to take risks or to exemplify initiative because they know that they're in a supportive environment. Closely related to that item is that there is someone at work who encourages my development. So personal development is important not only for individuals, but again, for the organization. And I can think of very recently efforts that the district went to. We actually paid to have 6 of our secretaries attend a conference in State College. And interestingly, the topics that they were able to access were time management, managing emotion in the workplace, how to receive and express appreciation in the workplace, creating a respectful and safe workplace, leadership in the workplace even when you aren't the one in charge, discovering your communication style, and ABCs of customer service. So it's that kind of training and professional development that should be available to every level of employee. The last half of the questionnaire is number 7, at work my opinions seem to count. And again, we've been trying to do a better job of soliciting those opinions to find out what our employees think would be good ways to address the challenges that we're all facing. Number 8 is the mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. And I would say at this point, if all of our employees don't understand just how critical the education of our youth is and how no matter what role they have in this organization, they have an important role to play in that education, then I haven't done my job well enough. I'm saying it again here in front of this board meeting and on TV that the work that every employee in our district, whether they're serving food to children who are often without food other than that they receive at school, or those people who clean our buildings and provide a safe and an attractive environment for children who sometimes come from environments that aren't so safe and attractive. If those people don't understand how valuable they are, I'm saying it again here publicly, their work is critical to the success of our children. Just as the work of our teachers who toil every single day to make sure that they're imparting those lessons to our students, and the administrators who deal with any number of issues on a daily basis, those roles are all critical and essential to making sure that our children learn. Number 9 is that my associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. Again, remember those employees who are not engaged are just putting in time and going through the motions. I don't feel we have that many of those types of workers. But the notion that they're doing quality work is something that we continue to work on. Item 10 is interesting. I have a best friend at work. And this item goes to the idea of trust, common values, the notion that work is a place I like to be, and that there's a sense of shared purpose. Item 11 is that in the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. Again, that's the kind of feedback we need, and if that feedback, like we talked about earlier, is focused on what people are doing right, then that will lead to greater employee engagement. And the last item is, this last year I have had opportunities at work to learn and grow. Again, going back to this notion of providing training for employees where we see a need. And I would again encourage employees who feel like they need additional training to let their supervisor know. And I'll throw this out there too. If you do that and you let your supervisor know that you feel like you need additional training or you're interested in attending a conference, or enhancing your skills, and you don't get any feedback or response, take it to the next person in your chain of command. Even if you call Terry Yeager and make an appointment and come to my office to ask to better yourself. You can never suffer any negative consequences for wanting to do your work better. I make that statement publicly right now. So those are the 12 questions that Gallup uses. And that's exactly what I intend to continue as we fulfill not just this resolution, but the strategic initiatives of this board and of this district. And I look forward to continuing that work, and I hope that I have more to report next year as we make progress toward this end. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point of clarification. We had Ms. Wiley give us a presentation on our physical education programs. Did I fall asleep, or isn't she supposed to be giving us a presentation on TV one of these times? I think everybody should know the work that those ladies have been doing to make phys ed more than throwing a basketball on a court.
We will. We'll have a presentation prepared for May.
All right. More work for you, Pam, I'm sorry.
All right, may we have a motion to accept the superintendent's report, please?
So be it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Brzezinski, seconded by Vice President Petrunger. Any discussion on the motion? None.
Repeat that?
Not without breakfast. Okay. A call to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is the approval of the report of the Secretary for the months of January 31st, 2015 and February 28th, 2015. May I have a motion, please?
So be it.
Motion by Mr. Petrunger, seconded by Mrs. Alexandrovich. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Alexandrovich? Yes. Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fabrizi?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McNair? Yes. Mr. Petrunger?
Yes.
Ms. Shenley? Yes. Mr. Cassillo?
Yes. Regarding the award of bids,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, sir. I couldn't tell who it came from. Oh, Mr. Harkins.
I move we award the bids outlined in items 1201 and 1202, that being Vertex 360 virtual reality arc welding trainer and liquid propane gas commodity storage and delivery services.
Thank you. Is there a need to separate, being that they were both addressed simultaneously
I
on
can
the
put them
award
in
of bids?
separately.
I'm sorry?
I could put them in separate, or I can combine them later.
Okay, yeah, all right. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Harkins, seconded by Mr. Petrunger. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Alexandrovich? Yes. Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fabrizi?
Yes.
Mr. Harkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McNair? Yes. Mr. Petrunger?
Yes.
Ms. Shenley? Yes. Mr. Cassillo?
Yes. Regarding any other board matter for discussion,
Mr. President,
Mr. Fabrizi.
I just want to comment on the administration's and the superintendent's report, and I'm going to be very short, okay? So all I want to do is reach out to all the employees and understand that the administration is looking at trying to team build. It's trying to get us back together so that we're proud of what we do. And we all know that our jobs are important to the education of our kids. And so all I'm asking as a person who worked there for many, many years, to put the cynicism aside, put the negativity aside, come to work with a positive attitude. If somebody starts talking negative about these things, these initiatives that are being put forward by the administration, let them know we're trying. We're going to try to make this a good place to work so that the children feel it. That's what this is all about. And so, this initiative started, or this conversation started 2 years ago, and he's told us many of the things that they've started to do, but there's a focus here. You can see that the superintendent sees it. I think that everybody out the audience now knows that the superintendent is concerned about bringing us all together and knowing that we have a strong purpose here. We're educating our kids. And so I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to go on too much longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fabrizi. Anyone else?
Mr. Cassillo?
Yes, sir.
I just want to touch on Central Tech, under the leadership of Mr. Punt, opened their Pallets to Profits business today. It's an advanced manufacturing program at Central Career and Technical School. It's a student-led business turning reused and reclaimed materials into household items available for sale to the public. The project offers valuable learning experiences for students. It's environmentally friendly, and all proceeds from the sale items go back to support the school's career and tech programs. I personally have seen the products when I was at the luncheon last week. These kids are doing phenomenal jobs. Our career and tech program just never ceases to amaze me. So I just wanted to let it out. And if anybody wants to purchase these, they have more than 20 items currently available for sale. You can go to our website, eriesd.org/ballots. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bertrand. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, our student rep.
Yes, please.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Strong Vincent students. Thank you to the Erie Public School, and thank you to Ms. Prater and Strong Vincent, because without the pushing and trying to get us on the right path, I wouldn't be as successful as I am now with going to college and with programs like Go College, gaining options for college, Go College with Gannon, helping with FAFSA and helping me pick a college and do essays and scholarships. I wouldn't be as successful, so thank you. And I think that programs like that are very important. So
Thank you, Jaquela.
I went to Edinburgh University.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Harkins.
I'd briefly like to speak in praise of a book that I only recently became aware of, and it's written by an Erie man, born, raised, educated, and residing now again in Erie, Dr. Tom Stashewski. Some of you may recall that about a year and a half ago, he came here to one of our regular board meetings to advocate. He was a member of the Career Technical Advisory Committee, advocating that we move in the direction more strongly of a STEM school at Tech. He's had a varied career in education, from elementary school to up through and including higher education, both in teaching and administration. And the book isn't brand new, but the theme and the message of the book is very current, and that is basically that teaching is the most noble profession. It serves as it's the profession that has created all other professions. And this book, I just want to read a sentence or two. In this era of policy change and educational reform at the K-12 level, suddenly everybody has become an expert on school systems. In his opinion, the author, there's a great amount of unjustified criticism that is unfairly being leveled against our schools and our teachers. Most of the criticism is unfounded, baseless, undeserved, and distorted. Many critics of school systems have never set foot in a classroom to see what's going on other than their own experience as a former student, and their criticism is erroneous and counterproductive. If they would take the time to better understand just how hard the teaching profession really is, they would change their criticism to face the reality of today's schools and society at large. Most critics would find it difficult to even make it through one day in the life of a typical teacher. The essence of the book is that today's teachers are under a lot of pressure and scrutiny, and there is a need for more support, recognition, and appreciation for the good that they are providing society. So the point of this book is to inform the uninformed about how difficult it is to teach in many of today's schools, and to provide recognition to educators and to thank them for the positive difference they are making in society. I could go on, but the point is, as I just said, it helps the uninformed learn and get more in touch with what teaching is all about in today's society. And it also has tips and advice for teachers themselves to renew their passion and enthusiasm. The book is called Total Teaching, Your Passion Makes It Happen, by Dr. Tom Stashewski, who, as I said, is a proud, successful graduate of Erie's Public Schools.
Oh, that's great, John. Thank you. Anyone else have something to offer? I would like to congratulate the students at the Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy. They actually won the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. The NWPCA was selected from more than 3,100 applicants nationwide. The Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest is a program that encourages teachers and students to solve real-world issues in their community using classroom skills in science, technology, engineering, and math for a chance to win a share of $2 million in technology. It was based upon a project video submission. Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy won the Community Choice Award, with 96,358 public online votes to become the national winner. As a grand prize winner, the school will receive an estimated $138,000 in technology and cash. The Northwest PA Collegiate Academy will, and four other national grand prize winners will be honored at an awards ceremony in Washington, D.C. later this month, where they'll also have an opportunity to meet with their congressional representatives. That is a terrific achievement that we at representing our public schools ought to be very proud. I'd invite the group to come to a meeting to give us a little more information on exactly what it was that they came up with. I think it's a terrific attribute to the teaching staff with both Career, Central Tech, as well as Northwest, because it's through their innovative ideas and motivation that has led students, and this is a student program. These are run by students, not faculty. So it's to be congratulating the teachers in motivating the students as well as the students in their achievement. So with that, I offer my congratulations. Is there anything else for the good of the order? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
We have a motion by Mr. Petrunger, seconded by Angela McNair. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So be it.
Are you only going to be with us tonight?